Okay, we are back, and at first, before the presentation, some additional information. Please check the link pinned here in comments. 10:45, Aušis Juozapaitis will explain all the details of the attack during the presentation, but you have to try to solve it, so be the first to do that. And now let's continue. Hello, Viktor, can you hear me?
Hello, yes, I hear you.
So Viktor Denisenko is an assistant professor at the General Jonas Žemaitis Military Academy of Lithuania, a journalist and researcher from Lithuania. He has been focusing on the fields of political communication, political journalism, propaganda, information warfare, and strategical communication for more than a decade. His topic today is how propaganda works, and the presentation will reflect the main principles of propaganda and its techniques, some peculiarities of modern Kremlin propaganda, creation of information chaos, adaptation of social media language for own purposes will also be covered. So please, screen is yours.
Thank you. I will share my presentation first. Yeah. Hope everything works.
Yes, we can see everything, so please.
Okay, thank you. So my topic was presented, so I will start. I have a plan to talk approximately 20-25 minutes and maybe let some time for questions, as I understand it's possible. It's possible be questions.
Yes, so, of course, we're waiting for questions.
Okay, so propaganda, of course, it's a very broad topic and hard to present everything during 20 or even 30 minutes, but I will try to stress main things. What we're talking about when we're talking about propaganda and how propaganda works. So here you could see some definitions about what propaganda is and what propaganda means. In general, there are a lot of different definitions. I think more than 100 or so, which we could find in scientific literature, in different dictionaries, and so on. But main principles everywhere are same. Propaganda have intention to make influence to people, to make influence to opinion. Also, propaganda trying to cover own actions, to act like a undercover. And also we're talking about possibility to push people, make one or another things to influence behavior of people. So we could say that propaganda, it's like a complex action, which purpose is to make influence to society, to some persons, to some audience. And propaganda use some tools. I already mentioned that best and I could say most effective propaganda is not visible. It's undercover, and it's we have very interesting metaphor for propaganda. But propaganda should be like radiation. What it means? In fact, we could not see how radiation are spreading. Yeah, we could not see radiation by our eyes, but if we are affected, we will feel these consequences later. Yeah, soon or later. So propaganda works in similar way. Best propaganda, I could say, but because naturally, if I know what narrative or some story or some message which I am facing is propaganda, I will try to not believe it. I will try critically evaluating this message or narrative. I will be prepared. But if I am not sure that this is propaganda, or if I even not thinking what maybe it's propaganda, I'm not prepared and I'm not aware. And propaganda's main tools is manipulation, and it's like a really main thing, because propaganda manipulating facts, propaganda using manipulation for fakes, lies, and so on. Propaganda trying to foolish audience, yeah, I could say. And this manipulation for some information, it's main tool of propaganda. Also, another very important point when we're talking about propaganda and how it works, it is emotions. Why propaganda use emotions and trying to use strong, especially strong emotions like fear, disappointment, and so on. Firstly, because psychologically, we human beings, we have like two main pillars in our psychology. One pillar is our brain, or our thinking, our critical thinking, I could say. And another like a kind of pillar, it's area of emotions. Yeah, and interesting thing, but quite often emotions are stronger than critical thinking, because I could say everyone could try to remind maybe some examples from own experience, yeah, when very strong emotions catch us, yeah, it's very hard to think analytically and to think critically. And maybe later, yeah, when we remember some situations and analyzing these situations, we could say, yeah, I made wrong decision. Maybe better I would keep silent in this situation, or say another words, or react not so emotionally. It means that emotions is a way to avoid this critical thinking, or to switch off critical thinking for a while. So, of course, propaganda using emotions as also, I could say, as a tool. And now I will present some like principles and techniques which propaganda use. And today I am talking first of all about this offensive propaganda, or what we call black and gray propaganda. Because in general, propaganda is more complex thing, because we could talk also about white propaganda, which is, for example, social advertising, which also trying to manipulate our emotions, our way of thinking, but with purpose to with good purposes, yeah. But today I will talk about, in fact, about propaganda, disinformation, and first of all, Kremlin propaganda. It's challenge which topical for our region, first of all, and symbolically, we, of course, talking today when it's 1 year after beginning of this horrible war in Ukraine, and in fact, horrible Russian aggression against Ukraine. So I will talk about this Kremlin propaganda, and will provide some examples, first of all, from this field, from field of propaganda of our eastern neighbor. So some ways and techniques of propaganda. propaganda likes to manipulate some associations, some symbols even, and use this technique as name calling. What it means? It means that you could just say that, look, these people or this state are how presented in this example, they are fascists. Yeah, they are Nazi, they are fascist, and what it means. Historically, we all recognize, we are recognizing that Nazism, fascism, it's a bad thing, it's a horrible thing. Yeah, and historically, especially in Europe, this meaning of Nazism and fascism is quite clear, and it's very negative. So what Kremlin propaganda using quite often, and first narratives about like a rebirth of fascism or rebirth of Nazism in Baltic states appears even, I think, 3 or 4 or even 4 decades ago, 3 decades ago, in fact, when Soviet Union collapsed, and Russia have some like tensions with Baltic states, tensions linked to evaluation of our common history, evaluation of a period of occupation of Baltic state. So it's very easy to say, look, this state supporting Nazism. And from everyone in Europe, this message means that look, they are just bad guys. They are bad. Yeah, because symbols are quite powerful, and this like remembrance, memories of a war still are quite powerful in Europe. So this name calling technique is quite easy to use. Another way or techniques is manipulation of the context and or suppression of facts. And here I have also kind of historical example. This picture is not from Lithuania, it's from Latvia. It's summer 1940, when in fact Soviet Union seized Latvia and seized all 3 Baltic states. And this is picture from a rally when people asking Soviet Union they asking to join Soviet Union. And it's a real historical picture. And for example, Kremlin propaganda also like to manipulating these narratives and saying that why you talking about occupation, but look, it was no resistance from Baltic states, it was no military resistance in 1940. Yeah, and people asked to join Soviet Union, so it was like a good thing for Baltic states. So why you are not grateful for this Soviet period? And if we would look only to this one picture, we could say, yeah, I see what people asking to join Soviet Union, and yeah, maybe Kremlin is right, but only we could say this thing only if we do not analyzing all context and all facts about these historical events, because quite well known that this rally was orchestrated by Moscow. Soviet military, Soviet soldiers already were on territory of Baltic states, and in fact, at the moment of this rally, Latvia as well as Lithuania and Estonia already lose independence. And today we could say that it was kind of a hybrid operation, hybrid warfare, annexation of Baltic states. and we could find some similarities how Russia act against Ukraine and annexed Crimea in 2013. So in all facts are important. All facts matters, because if we have just some facts or some chosen facts, we also could face with manipulation. Okay, another techniques, quite well-known hot potato techniques, and it could be presented like the adaptation of real events for purposes of propaganda. And here I have example from Sputnik Lietuva. It's Sputnik is Kremlin created like a media, but in fact it's source of disinformation, source of propaganda. It's a quite big network created in 2013 after events in Ukraine. This network operating in different languages, and it was also this Lithuanian version of this Sputnik for Lithuania, especially. And this is example from period of pandemic, period of coronavirus, COVID-19 pandemic, and title of the article could be translate like a breaking, like a but the Article 5 does not work, and Article 5, of course, of NATO. And punch of coronavirus is destroying NATO. Like content of this article was about how solidarity about NATO states do not works, how it's everything is bad, and that look after this pandemic NATO will not exist, because we could see how the solidarity and cooperation between NATO states doesn't work. So and why it's hot potato techniques and hot potato example? Because coronavirus pandemic, it was real. Yeah, it was new situation in the world, new situation in our reality, and this narrative that NATO like that real solidarity in NATO does not exist, not new narrative. And this narrative about not like effective NATO was just adopted to new reality and adopted to this unexpected situation of coronavirus pandemic. One more techniques which I could mention is blowing the real problems, and it's quite important, because we could talk about, for example, black propaganda, where everything is fake, every element of narrative or message are fake. But also most powerful, most strong propaganda is propaganda which is based on some real problems. Yeah, and here you also could see like a example. It's the title of this video. In fact, is breaking news. The West will frozen, will starve, and will fall into parts due to Russia. And of course, it's a narrative how West shot himself implementing sanctions on Russia and so on, but Russia will stop supply of energetical sources to Europe, and Europe will collapse. Okay, and this is a propaganda. So of course, Europe today, we have some issues, some challenges in this sphere of energetical security of sources, but it's not so dramatical. Yeah, winter going near the end, and Europe still alive and still not frozen. And also propaganda like conspiracy theories, and propaganda especially targeting people who believe conspiracy theories. Also, it's quite easy to explain why, because people who believe conspiracy theories, in fact, they not not believe to official sources quite often, not believe official media, not also very critical about state, about authorities, and so on, and they are open to believe to different narratives, another narratives or alternative narratives. So propaganda trying to provide these fakes as alternative facts or alternative narratives about reality, and also quite often using this different conspiracy theories, mixing conspiracy theories, because here, like in this picture, we have some conspiracy theories, one about COVID-19, another about 5G, and conspiracy theory about 5G. It's like a not new theory. COVID-19, it was in fact, when pandemic started, also this quite old 5G theory was adopted to new situation. And last but not least, today propaganda also trying to create a kind of illusion of vox populi, or made falsification of public opinion, because also it's psychologically it means people, yeah, we are looking quite often what this public opinion is about, and especially if we have no own position about one or another question, we believing that if many people supporting some ideas, these ideas are true, and on these techniques based like a trolls technology, because trolls trying to make in social networks and social media illusion that many people supporting one idea or another idea, or many people like telling some stories what they saw by own eyes, what happens in Ukraine, what happens in Lithuania, and so on, so on. And it could be in fact just one big fake, yeah. But when we're going to social media, and if in social media we seeing what everyone talking about this and talking in this way, we could believe that maybe it's true, because many people talking about it. So, and short conclusions. So propaganda wants to make influence of our way of thinking, and it's important because our way of thinking affects the decisions we are making. Because if I believe that some information is true, I will make my decision looking to this information and analyzing this information. The most effective way to make an impact on people is through the emotions. I mentioned what's manipulation. Its main tools and subject of manipulation could be real events as well as imagined events, context, or even facts. Propaganda could use facts for manipulating facts. And in fact, propaganda based on creation of illusion. For example, illusion of some public opinion, or even like a broader creation of some alternative reality, or like a picture of alternative reality. So thank you. As we have some questions.
Thank you for your presentation. Yes, of course, we have some questions. So one of them is, are soldiers or civilians in Lithuania trained to spread propaganda and use it as a weapon?
Okay, it's a good question. In reality, no, we are not using propaganda. We are using strategical communication, and its main difference is that we are not lying. And when I'm teaching cadets in military academy, we're talking about strategical communication, about, for example, how to deconstruct fakes, how to show what one or another narrative is not real, how it's constructed. And in general, Lithuania is, we are a member of NATO. NATO not using psyops, psychological operations against civilians or civil society.
Okay, I see. Thank you. And one more thing, in your opinion, what role do social media platforms play in the spread of propaganda, and what can individuals do to identify or combat it? Maybe some suggestions.
Of course, role is huge, and we quite often talking in like a scientific or academical world, but social media changed everything. Because if before social media, or even before internet, we could say that, of course, main channel to spread some disinformation and best channel could be media. And but if we're talking about real quality media, it means that journalists, editors, they are like a filter. They checking information and not allowing to publish the fakes. In social media, we have no filters, in fact. So first of all, what could be done? Every user, I think every user should think about possibility to improve this critical thinking, own critical thinking, because if you have no like artificial filters, we should be filters himself. First thing. Another thing, fighting this disinformation. In Lithuania, we have like a grassroots movement of internet elves. People, in fact, it's like a example of civil society in social media. I could say people who cooperating, trying to also catch and deconstruct this fake news, who writing what is true, what is not in one or another narrative. So you could, I don't know, Google and find these elves and maybe enjoy this. These activities, because also, as I know, this movement of elves now it's not only national Lithuanian movement, it's international.
Okay, thank you for answer, and of course for the topic, which is very relevant today. Thank you very much. And our next presenter is in process of signing in, so let's wait a little bit and we will be able to continue.